We're going to talk a little bit about media today, but before we do, I'd like to know what people think of when they hear media. What's your definition, or what do you think of when you hear media? Pardon? Internet. Yeah.
Like television.
Radio, television, print media, newspapers, magazines.
I think about pros and cons, risk and benefits.
There is that part of it too, and the internet. That includes website, blogs, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I could go on for another 10 minutes about the different types of media out there. Those are the media that we're talking about. But when you talk about public relations, who's your public? Who are you trying to reach?
Doctors, patients, general public, stakeholders, the decision makers, health authorities, everybody who has something to do with the activities that we are involved.
Yeah, and there's two groups to that. Those are the people. One group are the people that you know of already, the people who are signed up for your Facebook page, or who are connected through Twitter, or receive your newsletter, or you have those connections to. There's a larger group out there that you don't have a connection to. Those are the people who are floundering, who may have just been diagnosed, who live in a small community where there might be one MPN patient in the next 60 miles or so, and think they're isolated and alone, and have been told sometimes by physicians that you're not going to find another patient like this. But those are the people that you want to get to with your message, because we have a particularly important message to get to those people who don't have connections to large medical institutions, who don't get the most up-to-date information. So those are your publics too, the ones who know you, but primarily also the ones who don't know you. Before we go too much into strategy, how many people have a media strategy for their organization? One, yeah, and yeah. So you have an idea. Does your strategy include owned media, Facebook, Twitter, newsletters? Does it include paid media, advertisements on Twitter, sponsored content, that sort of thing? YouTube, yeah. But that's YouTube is. But what I'm thinking of is, like, if you go to Facebook, you'll see a promoted ad on there. Twitter has sponsored ads. Those are things that organizations have paid for. Go to a newspaper, you see an ad in a newspaper, a magazine, advertisements on television, that sort of thing. Those are paid ads. What about earned media? Stories that you pitch to newspapers, magazines, radio stations, television stations. Do you do much of that type of outreach? A couple of people. Are you successful? You get people. You get things posted.
I think yes, because we have many interview in TV, Moroccan TV, in radio also. We have in the regional radio and the national radio also. I think every month we have something on radio or TV.
Right.
And
yeah.
it's good for our organization.
Now those are spots that they came to you and wanted to put on, or you approached them?
I send requests, or sometimes they ask me.
Okay.
For example, last month we celebrate World CML Day, and then I was radio responsible called me and asked me, "It is your month now. Can you can you have some interview, and can we do some interview with you and with some patient?" I say yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we at the foundation, we don't have much success with that type of earned media where we would send out a press release or talk to somebody. We have done radio interviews in small markets, but when we pitch a story to print or broadcast media, an MPN story is not general public. It's not going to strike a chord. But it also depends on what the messaging is. If it's about a new immunotherapy project, CRISPR technology, some of the sexier things that people are talking about generally, it might get some play. But earned media is hard to get across.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
And maybe Dave is in the room. Dave, MPN Hero is the ceremony. Isn't that something that can be go out to the media?
Yes, and we do get pickup from it. Cure Magazine, who hosts the celebration event, actually does send out to the media a press release, and it does get pickup. And then to help spread it even more, what they do is they go to the local community of any of the recipients of the award, and then the local papers are much more likely to pick it up as well. So it's a good way to take it to the next level.
Yeah. The one thing nice about that is you've got a media outlet, Cure Magazine, already connected to it, which makes it a little bit easier, but still, that's a good example of what we do with MPN Heroes.
But I think the one thing I would add is, to me, that's when groups combine and you have one bigger initiative, you're more likely to get pickup from media, at a national level or at country level.
Yeah.
So if there was something, I heard you talk about doing a combined MPN Awareness Day or something. Right. I think if the whole world community came together to do it, and you all submitted things, you might get a better story.
That's exactly right. I mean, in the United States, we obviously do a very concentrated, focused MPN Awareness Day and Blood Cancer Awareness Month campaign. While we have a pretty good reach, we're not that big compared to other organizations. And let's face it, every organization on the face of the earth has an awareness month or day. So you just have to keep pitching it.
And maybe you can find a celebrity. That always helps.
We've been looking. The good news is we have not found a celebrity, because that means that there isn't a celebrity out there with an MPN. The bad news is we have not found a celebrity. There is no celebrity with an MPN. So it's a double-edged sword. We don't want people to get an MPN, but if there is one who has the ability to get our message out, that would at least be helpful.
It's not always. We have celebrities with CML. They just don't want to come out. So.
Well, that's the other side. So
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is just, for example, one of them, and the movie star is another. But they're not willing to give themselves and be used as agents or.
And that's part of the challenge with this disease that I've noticed, is that I've talked to a number of CEOs, not a great number, but a few CEOs, people who are responsible for a particular company or aspect of a company. They don't want to talk about it, because that will hurt their organization and give people who are working for them the idea that maybe this is something we should be afraid of, we should be careful of. It's going to hurt them, their ability to do business. So it is hard to find that celebrity, but like I say, we'll keep looking, and one of these days maybe that'll happen. Let's talk about your owned media and the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good part of owned media, your website, newsletters, Twitter accounts, you own and you push out the stories, what you want to say, when you want to say it, to who you want to say it to. It's your message, and you choose the mechanism to get it out there with. And you choose the action that you want people to take. Remember when I talked about MPN Awareness Day, we had 4 calls to action. That was a lot for 1 month. Normally we would just use 1, maybe 2. Want them to donate, want them to sign up for the register, want them to sign up for our newsletter, want them to share this information because it might be particularly important. But you can ask them to do what you think is important, and you can put that into the messaging. The bad is that people have to find your website, your Facebook page. They have to find your Twitter account. And if they're not registered with you, if they're not signed up for your database, they have to get it to you. That's why we want people to sign up for our database so we can push it out to them, as opposed to them trying to find it. The other part is that sometimes organizations don't have a coordinated message. One day they may say share our information, the next day it might be donate. All of a sudden you're sending mixed messages out to your audiences, and they don't know what you want them to do. They don't know why it's important that you're asking them to do what you're doing. That's why we like to have a longer campaign, a week, 2 weeks, a month, to talk about during this month we want 200 people to sign up for the registry. We want 300 new donors. So if you haven't donated, we're going to have a campaign at the end of the month which will be asking people, if you've never given and you give between December 1st and December 31st, your gift will be matched with $100. So it's motivating them to give, that sort of thing. Dave had a good idea yesterday regarding Amazon and Amazon Prime. Now you can set up, and it's been going on for a number of years, you can have your donors, your constituents, designate your charity, your organization, as somebody to receive a portion of what people spend on Amazon. It doesn't cost them anything. They have to go in there, change their settings a little bit, set your organization up. Every time they buy something on Amazon, you get a small portion of that, but it is money that you don't have to work for. All you have to do is ask people to sign up. Dave had a good idea to say, we've got a number of people who do that now, but the idea that when I get back to the foundation, that part of our messaging during December is going to be, if you're on Amazon, set us up as the charitable organization to receive contributions, but also ask 20 of your friends and neighbors. So if we get one person to do it, that'd be great. If we get an additional 20 people, that's even better. And we'll do that during the year because it's easy money. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to contribute. They're already shopping on Amazon. So those are things that you could do. Good idea, Dave. Give him credit. The ugly part of Twitter, Facebook particularly, even your website, if you have an opportunity to have people respond to it, trolls. You can have the best messaging and not think that you're saying anything negative. People are angry out there. They will always come up with negative comments, and you can't control that. It doesn't happen very often, but even on our Facebook page and Twitter, sometimes we have to hide or delete a response from somebody. So you have to be careful with that. Now, when you're talking about paid ads, the good part of that is, again, you have control over the stories, the images that you want to send out. It's your story. You're paying for it. You send it out. The other part is that you reach a broader audience than those people who you already have a connection to. You might identify new patients, new patient families, new doctors who might not have been connected to the most recent treatments and therapies, or know that there's a patient support mechanism in their area. So you're able to reach those folks. And advertising will give you reports on the demographics of who you reached with your messaging. How many people in one particular city or age group, or depending upon what demographic you're looking at. So you can see where your messaging is going, who's opening it. It might be an area that you don't have a lot of connection to, or just the opposite. You might find that it's an area that you have very little connection to, did not get your message. So you might have to work a little bit harder. The bad part is you may not have all complete control over your messaging. It depends on the size of the article, depends on the messaging, depends on the organization you're working with. They may have to edit it a little bit. And they may not edit it the way you want it to be edited. The messages might get mixed up. The really bad part about paid media is the word paid. It costs money. It's Facebook, Twitter, not as expensive as television, newspaper, magazine ads, but if your organization doesn't have a lot of money, even small amount of money can preclude you from posting something anywhere. The really ugly part about it is you may start with a strategy at the beginning of the year and have a budget set up to post ads in different magazines, newspapers, and you may do your research and figure that, oh, it's going to cost us X number of dollars. When it comes down to doing that, prices change. Your budget may be blown because you thought it was going to cost you X number of dollars in January. By June, it's doubled. So you have to be careful with the price. Now, earned media, and we've had trouble at the foundation getting our messaging out there. It hasn't been as effective as we wanted it to be. We try, but MPN Research, it's a small community. It's not very sexy. There are more important medical stories out there. It's just something that we have to do. But the good news about that earned media, newspapers, broadcast print, those types of things, it's trusted for the most part. In the United States, there's a lot of talk about fake news, but that's just a temporary thing, I hope. But it's still a trusted way to get your message out to people. And for the most part, it's a trusted messaging way. You reach a broader audience again. Now, that may be good, it may be bad, it depends on what your message is. But if you're trying to identify new patients, new patient families, just to get your message of what an MPN is, sometimes it's good to talk to people who have never had a connection to it, just to get a little information out to people. And who knows, you may identify donors, volunteers. There might be new patients that you get. You never know where this stuff goes. I know that I've heard stories and have had the experience where you go in to a radio broadcast and you're talking to people about your disease, and the next day you get 2 or 3 people calling up and say, I heard you're on the radio the other day. I was really compelled by your story. Didn't know this was going on. I'd like to be able to help some way. What do you need? And they may say something very quickly about, I don't have a lot of money, but I'm willing to help, which is always important. You always want to have volunteers, people who do stuff. You may find we've gotten people helping with posting things on social media, people who may have a skill that we don't have. Print media, writing stories. I've got a woman in Massachusetts who is writing and editing patient stories of patients who've submitted them to the foundation to tell us about their journey with their MPN, and she's just doing it voluntarily. We don't have the staff to do that, and she's a good writer, and she'll work with the individuals to get pictures, to ask questions about their story. Then we can take that and put it on our blog, put it on our website, put it in our newsletter, get the message out. But we wouldn't have enough time to do that. She was identified through our media. She had a father who was an MPN patient, so there was a connection there, but she's helping that way. And then there's the ugly part of earned media, biased reporting. Your message might be something that is important. A reporter may twist it in a way that makes it seem different than what message you want to go out there. You don't have any control over that. You also don't have any control over misprints and misquotes. You could say something and it could be taken out of context, or it could be taken out of context to make the point that the writer is trying to make, not the point that you want made. Or it could be something innocent that was just said that you have no control over. I was at a radio station with a patient, a stem cell transplant patient, and he said on air that MPNs are not cancer. And this was somebody who should have known better. This was not a message that I wanted to get out on a radio station. And I didn't want to do this because he was kind enough to do this as a volunteer to come up and talk about his story. But when it came down to my turn, I had to get the right information out there. But you have no control over that. And if I wasn't in the room, that information would have gone unedited or uncorrected, and people would have said, I guess it's not cancer because here's a patient who should know better, and he just told me it's not. So he just misspoke, wasn't thinking about what he was saying, and sometimes you just don't have control over that. The other thing is you could be all set to have an article placed in a newspaper or to run on a particular news day, and there could be an earthquake somewhere. There could be some other issue that comes up that you have no control over. Your story gets pushed off. The problem with that is if the story is about an event that's happening in 2 weeks and it doesn't run until 2 days after the event, that's not going to be very helpful. So it's just something you have to be aware of. To sum it up, owned media, Facebook, Twitter, website. For me, my idea, that's the best way to reach out to people. And again, reaching people who are not connected to that, you ask the people who you are connected to share it with their networks. That's easy for them to do for the most part. Retweet it, even quote the tweet and say, hey, this is an organization that I've been working with. This is the disease I have. Take a look at this article. Same thing with Facebook. Share it with your friends and neighbors saying the same thing. There are probably a lot of people on your Facebook and Twitter feed who are not MPN patients, who may or may not know about your disease or much about it. Paid ads, it allows you control over the message, but it costs money, so you have to be careful about cost. Earned media, yeah, that's going to get you a broader audience too, but you don't have much control over what's said. They say what they want to say based on what their editorial message is, so you have to know about those type of things. Bottom line is you have to have a broader media strategy before you start sending things out. You have to know what you want to say, when you want to say it, and what you're trying to accomplish with your message. I think I'm pretty close to done, but are there any questions? Yeah.
Hi, my name is Inger. I'm from Norway. I think about providing money.
Right.
We had a good idea in Norway. We are a strange country in many ways, but until 3 years ago, it was forbidden to play poker for money in Norway.
Yeah.
Until the authorities told us that if you are going to give some percent to a charity organization, then you can arrange a tournament. And our organization were picked out to get
Good.
to receive a certain percent of the money for 3 years. So for 3 years, we have, I'm a little bit embarrassed to tell you, but it was 100,000 euros
Good.
each year, 3 years.
That's
And comparing to the tournament, we have made some films from different blood cancer patients, and they are showing it during the tournament.
okay.
And we have a stand where we talk to all the young men. And all the young men between 20 and 40, they are playing poker.
Right.
And there is another thing about them, because they are perfect blood and bone marrow donators.
Yeah.
So we have made this little cartoon. So I've put up on my wall. Every year we get a lot of blood donators and bone marrow donators during this tournament. So
Yeah.
for 3 years, it has been the Norwegian Blood Cancer Association's privilege.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good story.
Well, it's a good
We're
story
very proud.
for a couple of reasons. One, you raised a lot of money, but two, you didn't have to do a whole lot of work.
Yeah.
You didn't organize the tournament. You didn't bring the players in. You
No.
didn't get the dealers. that
No,
sort of thing.
we just came, and we have different stories. We have some, for example, for instance, a person with myelofibrosis, which is stem cell transplant. Very successful history. We have leukemia patients and people that need blood.
Yeah.
So it's every story has a face. That's very important for the young man.
You do have to be careful sometimes, though, because even though it's a legal, authorized an event, you're using a gambling issue
Yes,
to
but
raise money.
this is completely legal.
Oh, no, I'm not saying
Yeah.
that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is there are still people out there who would prefer you not to be connected with gambling, even if it's legal.
It was a
yeah.
big discussion in
Yeah.
the association
Yeah.
before.
I'll give you a quick story. In higher education, I came from higher education, and the conversation in every university I've worked with particularly when somebody from the tobacco industry or liquor industry, beer or wine or liquor, comes to the university and wants to donate. Well, we don't, in a university, you don't want to advertise that you're getting money from a beer distributor or a tobacco company, even if they're giving a big donation. From a fundraising point of view, my comment was, this is a legal product, and it's going to be, the money that they're donating is going to go to a scholarship fund for needy students or something like that. So you can deflect it a little bit. But a lot of times, board of directors, other constituents don't want you to be connected with gambling, liquor, tobacco, that sort of thing.
But this is the last year we are going to receive the money, and we had great discussions around it, and evaluation. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah, and it has not damaged our reputation.
Right. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
but our message has been reached out to many people.
Yeah. Yeah, the other problem you have now that it's ending is €100,000 hole in your budget. That's 300,000. Yeah. So that's the other side of that. But yeah, I've been told my time's up. I appreciate your comments and questions. I don't know if that's off or not.
I can also tell you that we use the money to arrange a different day. We have just arranged MPN Day in Oslo, our capital, with 120 participants from all parts of Norway, from north to south, and it would not be possible if we don't have this money. We also have a seminar for leukemia, and we also have a seminar for myelodysplastic syndrome. And now we're going to arrange with the International Myeloma Foundation 3 seminars for myelomatosis. And we are a small country.
Right,
yeah.
That's a lot of things going on. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.